Hey, this is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things, and welcome to Winter is Coming Wednesday, episode 12. This is a post-production recording because my first intro was a little bit rough. This particular swap that I have was not part of the shoebox swaps. It's actually one of the two swaps that Libby had done. We did not get in the same groups, so afterward we were hanging out at her home, and she went ahead and packaged me up a set of materials for each of them. So because I wasn't going to be working on these with her, she punched out the reindeer for me. At the shoebox swap, everyone punched their own reindeer. The plaid trim was colored, and she went ahead and did the heat embossed sentiment. So that was all finished. I've gone ahead and laid out the entire card without any treatments or techniques used. Everything that I needed to do was written on little post-it notes. That is something that's a notable Libby thing. She loves her post-it notes. So I went ahead, took all the post-it notes, folded them up, and put them in a container. So I'm going to, through this video, pull from the container to work on a technique. Here is actually the container now. And that way it's just in a random order, not any particular order. We are guaranteed I won't forget anything. I will tell you that at the very end, I did not actually look at her card because I saw her creating the materials for this card before the event. I thought I knew the card well enough to be able to do it without peeking. At the very end, after I do the showcase where I show some of the different variations that I get to choose when I put the final card together for giving, I show her sample card that she had up on the board for the organizer person. And one of the techniques isn't on that particular card because she added it later. And then I actually didn't do a couple of the items right, but I went ahead and wrote notes on the sample card so you can see where I went astray. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the first technique by pulling from the container. So let's get started. I'm just going to grab the first, I'll grab this one. This one is an instruction that I had. It was actually two instructions, I believe. And so it says to do bark, which is embossing bark. So this white piece of smooth paper is going to turn into bark. Now what's interesting about this is, I'm going to look, I actually, it did not tell me which direction to do the bark, so I have the bark in both particular ways. All right, so there's vertical bark, and that looks pretty good. I'll give you guys a moment to mull it over. Now I'm going to try horizontal bark. Alright, sorry folks, I had to pause. Hub was getting up from his afternoon nap. He had to get settled. So I went ahead and took photos of the barks both different ways. Some of the things that I will be doing to these different objects, you know, once they're done, they'll be done and I won't be able to undo it. But I thought it would be fun to look at the bark both ways before I end up having to put too much together. So I'm just going to leave it with the vertical and pick another set of instructions. Sometimes it's fun when you're crafting with friends to play tic-tac-toe and you pick 3 different things. You know, you have a tic-tac-toe chart that has a variety of instructions like this. You know, it's not as specific. These are pretty specific. So this particular one is to pop up the bows and the sentiment. And so, unfortunately, I didn't think about this, so I will pop up the sentiment. I know I'm going to want it popped up in the end. And the bows have some steps that have to happen. So I'm not thinking I'll be able to do this. I should have set that in a maybe put it in with another instruction. So when the other instruction comes up that I have to do to the bows, I will do that as well as pop them up. But I can pop up the sentiment. I'm just going to do this very lightly because I do know that there is a fun thing we're going to do to this, and it might be that I will want these to not, I'll want to take them off. So there's the popped up sentiment. We are going to pop up our bows eventually. Next instruction. It's really fun when you get these boxes and they have all these fun steps to follow. These are all demonstrators, so they like to do, you know, more casual to avid type cards. Alright, so here we go. We've got ink. This one has to do with this cute deer. It is using a Christmas DSP. I'm going to look it up for you because I don't remember what it is called, but it is awfully pretty, and I did get some. So I will be able to do some projects with it. And Libby was very clever with the plaid. This plaid is actually black and white, and this deer is going to be colored with Merlot. And so I already have a dauber and my Merlot ink here, and let me get the name of that. Of course, all of the supplies used in this card will be on my blog. So you can shop from my blog. It goes right to my store. Looking at DSP. This particular DSP is a foil DSP, so it is considered a specialty, I believe. Let's see here. It is called Peaceful Place. So that will be, you can see all the different pieces. It has trees. This is the one that's basically snowflakes on a grayish ombre background. And there's trees and cabins and wood grain. This actually is a wood grain from the same DSP. And I am going to grab something. I had it nearby right here. So our goal is to turn this deer first into a Mary Merlot deer, and it is possible, depending on how inked my spot is, that I will want to grab my re-inker, but I'll try turning it Merlot with just the spot. Then the second step for this deer is to layer it for stability, and I of course don't have the punch, so she provided 3 extra deer, and I am going to glue all of the layers together to give it a really heavy, thick look, and it will look like it has dimensionals, but it'll be more solid looking than with dimensionals, and I really like that look. You can achieve the same effect with foam if you want to, or I often use the thick cardstock. You could use the thick cardstock, the thick like basic white, and then edge a color if you wanted a color. If you don't have all of the various cardstock colors. So there's a few ways to tackle getting the depth that you want. Now a popped up deer with a lot of dimension, and you can just see the difference in that deer from when it was gray. And I love how the snowflakes pop when you add the color. Very nice. And let me make sure I can move it back up so you can see it. Just have too many things on my desk because I've got all the extra steps out. All right, so that is the new look we have with it. Bark, inked. We're going to do this step later. All right, what do we have to do next? This one, all right, epoxy silver dots. So these dots are, so we've got clear and silver epoxy essentials, and there's diamonds, circles, and teardrops. And it looks like I have used the diamonds and I have circles here, so I will use the circles. So let's just say I'm going to put one here. Down here. I always like to do 3s or 5s if the project can handle that much embellishing. I sometimes will even do groups of 2 if I want to make it really fancy, like what would partner really nice with this. Here, I even got one just laying around. Is it's fun to, if I can pick it up, you can do groups of 2 or 3 if you like a lot of embellishing. That's just a rhinestone. I think this bigger rhinestone won't look as nice, so that's an option as well, to do groups of 2 or even trios. Put the lid on here. All right, so that was easy. So next is add silver edging. So I know that there are 2 silver edges needed, and I'm going to go ahead and let this silver be flat underneath the dimensionals. That was really sticky. All right, so at this point I can either try to put the paper back on, which I would like to do in case I want to take some photography and move things around for my final placement. So we'll go ahead and do that one. The next bit of silver is along the outside edge. I really like this silver webbing trim. It's like 1 1/4 inch thick, and you can just use it in all sorts of different ways. Okay. So there's that, and it might be a little bit tall at the top, so I might be trimming that off, top and bottom, and I will adhere it later. So we can get through the process here. This is the big one. Which one was this? Ah, finally. Okay. Now we have this particular set of instructions was for the Pear Pizzazz. So we're going to grab those. So the dots we are supposed to use are those dots right there. You can see that mine are very well used. This set has been used a lot. Luckily we have a lot of space, so I'm actually making sure this isn't the largest wreath where the end leaves are still touching. So let's see if that works. So now you can get really fancy if you want. You can form the ends to really pop up. All right. I believe I have one instruction left. Let's see. I've even lost track, so I'm not sure what it is, but oh, I think I know what it is. All right. The last instruction says ink with Merlot, then tear. All right, I'm going to take a paper towel, or in this case a Kleenex. I want to try to wipe off the silver. See how the color is coming off? It's coming off of the foil because I want the foil to still look silver. And I have a little bit on here because of my fussing. But it's still two very different edge treatments to consider. All right, since there's no change, I am going to go ahead and add a dot to the bow, and I'm going to add the bow. The bow did come, she left the tails long, and I did already fuss with it before filming. I just made the tails a little shorter. All right, so here is the white torn edge. Adding our deer. So that's one way. All right. I will take pictures, and I would love to know from you what you think of the variations that we get to choose from. Would you like vertical bark, white torn edge, horizontal bark, white torn edge, or colored edge, horizontal, or colored edge, vertical? And here are all of the instructions that I had. They were all attached very neatly to each piece of cardstock with what to do. And hopefully Libby will think I did this justice. I think it is a lovely card. I love it. Really like this sentiment. And I will be looking up, I don't remember which sentiment or which set that came from. If it's the gingerbread, which it might be, but I will be looking all of that up so that you can be able to purchase all of the different pieces for this card. So I'll go away and do some photography. As I said, please let me know your selections after you see in the showcase. Which one do you like best? Also add any of your questions or concerns on the video or over on my blog. All of the supplies will be on my blog. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. All right, as promised, here is the organizer's sample card. You can see that I put the bow on the wreath. Libby put the bow above the wreath. Libby added silver webbing behind the bow. And I did flip-flop the colors and was supposed to put the soft sea foam boughs on top.